Martha, 56, never thought she'd find salvation in a pigeon strut. But there it was, some kid Pike Place Market yammering about how town birds were climate change barometers, their patterns screaming what headlines whispered. Vibes shifted. Next morning, she bought a battered field notebook, joined Seattle's rogue birdwatching grannies. Farmers' market meetups became holy ground, her scribbles mapping hope in sparrow flocks and crows' cunning. Eco-grief didn't vanish, it just grew wings. Now, when rain smudged Martha, 56, never thought she'd find salvation in sparrows. Yet here she was, fumbling with binoculars on a misty Seattle morning, her field notebook, once reserved for grocery lists and half-finished poems, now crammed with hurried sketches of junco wings. Climate dread had coiled around her ribs like invasive ivy, whispering what's point. Until Urban Bird Collective found her a farmer's market, their booth wedged between kale vendors and a man selling honey in mason jars. She'd hesitated before joining. Age made her knees creak, yes, but worse was fear her small acts wouldn't matter. Like tossing confetti a hurricane, she'd muttered to her reflection. But group's leader, a retired teacher with a penchant for neon sneakers, handed her a pencil. Track one bird. Just one. Martha's first entries were shaky. A crow's oil-slick feathers. Pigeons bickering over a bagel crust. Yet weeks in, she noticed patterns, how chickadees fledged earlier each spring, how robins avoided certain alleys after construction began. Her notebook became proof, not of helplessness, but witness. She pressed cherry blossoms between pages, their papery veins mirroring her own. A meet-up under Market's neon clock, someone called her sparrow sage. Martha snorted, nearly spilling her chamomile. But later, flipping through dog-eared pages, she recognized vibes, not cure, but compass. Every inky tally was a rebellion against despair. Even hurricanes, she mused, began with just a whisper of wind. Martha, 56, never thought she'd find salvation in a tattered field notebook and a pair of thrift store binoculars. But after months of doom-scrolling climate headlines, her hands needed work beyond wringing themselves raw. Seattle's drizzle became her ally as she wandered Discovery Park, scribbling shaky notes on sparrows, until a gust sent her hat sailing into a bush. Retrieving it, she collided with a woman in a raincoat patterned like warbler wings. First rule of urban birding, stranger chuckled, handing over Martha's mud-speckled notebook. Always anchor your gear. Her name was Lynn, a retired biology teacher who ran a citizen science collective tracking how town birds adapted to warming winters. Their meetups happened Ballard Farmers Market, between honey stalls and kettle corn, where members traded data like recipes. Martha hesitated, she could barely tell a crow from a raven, but Lynn tossed her a laminated cheat sheet. We've all started somewhere. Even pigeons have stories. That notebook became more than lists. Pressed between pages, a feather from first flicker she identified by its laugh-like call, a ticket stub from a climate dock she attended with group. Her entries grew detailed, sketching not just species but behaviors, how juncos hopped differently on frost versus wet concrete, which alleys barred owls favored as heat waves pushed them north. Mistakes turned into inside jokes. Martha excitedly logged a rare yellow-billed cuckoo only to realize it was a tennis ball lodged in ivy earned her a gentle ribbing and a knitted bird-shaped coffee cozy. By solstice, she was leading newbies along Duwamish, pointing out how swallows rebuilt nests higher after flooding. Some mornings, eco-grief still lapped her like tidewater, but now she carried proof of resilience in her back pocket, a notebook warped by rain, crammed with small, stubborn victories. Martha, 56, never thought she'd find salvation in a frayed field notebook and a ragtag flock of urban birders. But after months of doom-scrolling wildfire headlines, her hands needed work her mind couldn't undo. She joined Seattle's feather finders on a whim, some retired teacher's farmer's market pitch between heirloom tomatoes and kombucha. First outing, she mistook a crow's molt for climate-induced balding. Group chuckled, not unkind. Creator leaned in. Notebook became her anchor. Scribbled dates, weather quirks, a stubborn Anna's hummingbird overwintering near her apartment's dying rhododendron. Data points stacked like armor against helplessness. She logged trash-lined alleys too, tallying plastic ribbons tangled in nests. Some days grief still lapped her ribs, then she'd spot a juvenile eagle riding thermal drafts over Lake Union and remember, resilience wore feathers now. Missteps kept her honest. She wasted weeks fretting over lost song sparrows until Lou's, Collective's octogenarian firecracker, schooled her on suburban microhabitats. Cities ain't dead zones, Querida. Just loud landlords. Martha's pages grew messy with underlined epiphanies. That dive bar dumpster hosted more sparrows than prissy bird-friendly cafe. A parking lot we'd patch fed goldfinches better than her pricey feeder. Winter tested her. Rain smudged ink, dampened turnout. One glacial morning, she almost bailed, until she caught sight of 3 crows heckling a bald eagle like tiny, furious comedians. Snort laughing, she fumbled for her pencil. Notebook survived coffee stains. So would she. By spring, her entries fueled city council testimony on green corridors. When some suit dismissed her as just a hobbyist, Martha thumped down years of data. Hobbies don't track extinction, sir. Back home, she sketched a crow in margin, gave it her mother's smirk. Fight looked good on her. Martha, 56, never thought she'd find salvation in scribbling sparrow sightings behind a dumpster. Yet here she stood, field notebook clutched like a lifeline, leading 12 strangers through Seattle's concrete jungle with swagger of a safari guide. Her neon vest clashed gloriously with her silver braid, take that, invisibility. 3 months ago, eco-grief had pinned her to couch, doom-scrolling wildfires. Now she tracked urban hawks like a detective, logging each feathery survivor as proof life clung on. Today's mission, a workshop for climate-anxious newbies Ballard Farmers Market. Skeptical glances bounced off her as she handed out binoculars. We're not birdwatchers, some tech bro muttered. We're data warriors. She winked, tapping her notebook, this little thing held power. Then chaos, a peregrine falcon dive-bombed a pigeon right above them. Wings, screeches, a single feather spiraling onto Martha's open page. Crowd gasped, she grinned. Perfect. Snapshots flooded Instagram, Raptor Justice, with her notebook center frame, smudged ink mapping hope. By sundown, her inbox blazed. A nature org wanted her to train teams. That scoffing tech bro. Begging for her guidebook. Martha sipped chamomile, spine straight. This wasn't just tallying crows. This was rebellion, one scribble at a time. Damn right, she thought, it's a start. Turns out, saving world began with noticing it. And maybe, just maybe, a sassy senior with a notebook could rally troops. Vibes, unstoppable. Martha, 56, never thought she'd find salvation in a frayed field notebook and a ragtag flock of urban birdwatchers. But there she was, knees damp from Seattle's eternal drizzle, scribbling notes as a heron preened atop a rain-slicked dumpster, proof that wild grace thrived even here. Eco-grief had once hollowed her out, left her staring climate headlines with numb dread. Now, tracking sparrows through parking lots and logging crow gossip in her margins gave her purpose. Every tally felt like a tiny rebellion, we see you. We're still here. Her notebook, once a lonely catalogue of worry, became a shared artifact. Farmers market meetups, her crew, retired teachers, baristas with binoculars, a punk teen who ID'd birds by their vibes, crowded around its pages, swapping stories of bald eagles nesting in cell towers. Martha's odd habit of whispering nice hustle, buddy to determined pigeons made them snort. But when she guided newbies to spot a Cooper's hawk silhouette, their gasps cracked something open in her chest. This wasn't just data. It was kinship. Seattle's concrete jungle turned treasure hunt. Overripe blackberries drew waxwings, storm drains hosted midnight frog symphonies. Martha's collective mapped it all, their findings nudging city planners to protect scrubby green pockets. Some days, despair crept back, but then she'd flip through her notebook, now dog-eared and coffee-stained, and see progress in smudged ink. Not salvation, maybe, but stubborn joy. A reminder that paying attention was its own kind of hope. So here's your nudge, sister, lace up those sneakers, crack open a journal, and chase wonder where you least expect it. Birds, and your future self, are waiting.